Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The glass facade of Adewale Holdings towered above Chioma Adeyemi like a symbol of everything she had ever wanted, and everything she had been told she couldn't have. She stood at the entrance, smoothing her navy blue blazer over her white blouse, her heart thudding so hard she could feel it in her ears. Chioma, breathe, she whispered to herself. This was it. The interview she had dreamed about since she left university. Adewale Holdings wasn't just any company, it was one of the biggest corporate empires in Lagos, and their graduate program was known to turn young professionals into industry leaders. Inside, the reception smelled faintly of citrus and expensive polish. A smiling receptionist in a crisp gray uniform glanced up. "Good morning, can I help you?" "Yes, I'm here for the management trainee interview." Chioma Adeyemi. The receptionist typed something into her computer, then handed her a visitor's badge. 12th floor. The panel is waiting. The elevator ride felt endless, the mirrored walls reflecting her determined face back at her. She had prepared for weeks, polished her CV, rehearsed potential questions, even researched the hobbies of the company's executives. The 12th floor boardroom was sleek and intimidating, floor-to-ceiling windows, a long table of polished wood, and 3 people sitting on one side. 2 of them looked friendly enough, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile and a younger man tapping notes into a tablet. But at the center sat a man who didn't smile at all. Colonel Adewale. She recognized him immediately from the company's website, the acting director, son of the founder. Tall, with broad shoulders under an expensive gray suit, his expression was sharp, assessing, and already bored. "Miss Adeyemi," the woman began, gesturing to the chair opposite them. "We've reviewed your application and portfolio. Very impressive. Tell us why you want to work at Adewale Holdings." Chioma launched into her answer, speaking with confidence about her passion for sustainable business practices and her desire to contribute to the company's expansion into African markets. The younger man nodded appreciatively, jotting down notes. But halfway through, Colonel interrupted. "Miss Adeyemi," he said slowly, "where did you go to secondary school?" "Queen's College, sir," she replied, unsure where he was going with this. "And your university?" "University of Lagos." He leaned back in his chair, smirking faintly. "Not exactly the Ivy League, is it?" The warmth in the room evaporated. Chioma blinked. "I believe the quality of one's education depends more on effort and performance than on a school's name, sir." He chuckled under his breath. Tell me, do you have any connections in the industry? Any influential family members?" "No, sir. Only my skills and work ethic." Colonel exchanged a glance with the other panelists, then picked up a crisp white envelope from the table. Chioma's heart leapt. She recognized it as the kind of envelope used for formal offer letters. "Do you know what this is?" he asked, holding it up. She nodded cautiously. "An offer letter?" "Yes. This was prepared for you based on your CV and the initial screening." He opened it slowly, scanning the page. "But I believe in setting standards. And frankly, I don't think you fit our culture here." Before she could respond, he tore the letter neatly in half. The sound of ripping paper seemed to echo in the boardroom. Then he tore it again into smaller pieces and dropped them into the bin beside him. The younger man looked uncomfortable. The woman's smile had vanished. Chioma sat frozen, humiliation burning her cheeks. "With all due respect," she began, her voice trembling. Colonel cut her off. "Respectfully, Miss Adeyemi, this is business. You may leave." For a moment the world tilted. She had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, skipping nights out, saving every naira for interview clothes, studying until her eyes ached, and it had come to this. She stood slowly, forcing herself to keep her back straight. "Thank you for your time," she said, though the words felt like glass in her mouth. As she walked out, she could feel their eyes on her. The elevator doors closed behind her, and only then did she allow herself to breathe. By the time she reached the ground floor, her phone buzzed with a message from her best friend, Amaka. "Amaka, how did it go? Did you get it?" Chioma stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back. "Chioma, no. I'll explain later." Outside, the sun was blinding, the noise of Lagos traffic crashing around her. She walked to the bus stop in a daze, each step heavier than the last. That evening, she sat in her small one-bedroom apartment, her blazer tossed over a chair, staring at the blank wall. She replayed the moment over and over, the tearing of the letter, the smug look on his face. She didn't cry. She couldn't. Something in her chest was too tight, too hot. When her phone rang, she answered without checking the ID. "Hello. Chioma, it's Amaka. Talk to me. What happened?" Chioma told her everything. Amaka gasped in disbelief. "He tore it? In front of you? Is he mad?" "That's not even the worst part," Chioma said bitterly. "He made it clear, people like me don't belong there." There was a pause. "So, what now?" Chioma stared at the chipped edge of her coffee table. She didn't know. All she knew was that she couldn't let that be the final chapter. "I don't know yet," she said quietly. "But he's wrong about me. And one day, he'll know it." The next morning she woke up still feeling the weight of it all. As she scrolled through her phone, a notification popped up. Someone had tagged her in a video on Twitter. She clicked. Was the interview. The camera, clearly from a phone, was angled from the corner of the room. It captured everything: her confident start, Kunnel's questions, his smirk, the tearing of the letter. The caption read, "When Nigerian corporate elitism shows its ugly face." Thousands of comments flooded in, some offering support, others mocking her. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Amaka called again. "Chioma, you're trending. I saw. This could destroy him, you know?" Chioma's lips curved into a small, determined smile. "No. This isn't about destroying him. Not yet. This is about proving him wrong." And in that moment the humiliation began to shift, solidifying into something sharper, stronger. Not revenge. Not yet. But a vow. The day after the interview, Chioma woke to the sound of her phone buzzing like an angry wasp. She groaned, reaching for it on the nightstand, only to see dozens of notifications. Twitter mentions. Instagram DMs. Facebook tags. She sat up quickly, scrolling through her feed. The video from the Adewale Holdings boardroom had exploded. Millions of views overnight. Headlines from online blogs read: CEO's son humiliates job applicant in front of panel. Elitism in corporate Nigeria, caught on camera. Her WhatsApp was no better. Friends from school, distant cousins, even an ex-boyfriend messaged her. Amaka's voice blasted through the phone when she called. "Chioma, I'm telling you, people are angry. They're calling for him to resign." But, her voice softened. "There are trolls too. Don't read the nasty comments." Too late. Chioma had already seen them. Maybe she wasn't good enough. That's life, connections matter. Why is she acting like a victim? She put the phone down, her hands trembling. Later that morning her landlord, Mr. Ajayi, knocked on her door. He handed her the electricity bill but lingered. "I saw the video," he said. "That man's head is too big for his shoulders. You hold your head high, my daughter." Chioma smiled faintly. "Thank you, sir." That afternoon she walked to the local cyber cafe to apply for other jobs. But even as she typed cover letters, the humiliation replayed in her mind. The ripping of the letter, the smugness in his eyes. On her way out, she overheard two students whispering. "That's her, the girl from the video. She's brave to even show her face." Brave. She didn't feel brave. That night, lying in bed, she thought, I can hide until the noise dies down, or I can work until they have something new to talk about. She chose the second. Chioma had 50,000 Nigerian nairas left in her savings. It wasn't much, but it was enough to try something she'd been dreaming about: designing handbags. Her late mother had taught her how to sew, and she still had her old Singer machine. She began sketching designs, modern shapes with Ankara fabric panels and leather trims. Amaka came over to see her work. "These are beautiful, Chi. People will buy them." "With what money?" Chioma said, frowning at the rough samples. "Start small. Just a kiosk. Yaba Market. Rent one for a month." Chioma hesitated, but a week later she stood inside a tiny kiosk in Yaba, its wooden shelves lined with her first 10 handbags. The first day was quiet. The second day, a fashion blogger named Lola wandered in, bought a bag and posted it online with the caption, "Found a gem in Yaba today, handmade, stylish and affordable." Orders trickled in. Chioma worked late into the night, sewing until her fingers cramped. She delivered products herself, taking buses across Lagos. Every sale felt like a small victory. One evening she told Amaka, "I'm exhausted, but for the first time in weeks, I feel alive." It was a humid Thursday afternoon when Mrs. Tiniola first stepped into the kiosk. She was tall, elegant, in a flowing kaftan with gold embroidery. She picked up a handbag, examined the stitching and smiled. "Who made this?" she asked. "I did, Ma," Chioma replied nervously. "You have talent. And you have courage. I've read about you." Chioma blinked. "You've seen the video?" "I have." And I've also seen how you've refused to let it break you. That's rare. She handed Chioma a business card. Call me. I have people you should meet. A week later, Chioma was in a private dining room at an upscale Victoria Island restaurant, presenting her designs to 3 potential investors, all introduced by Mrs. Tiniola. They didn't invest immediately, but Mrs. Tiniola began mentoring her. Branding, my dear, is as important as quality. And never price yourself too low. You teach people how to value you. With her guidance, Chioma registered her brand, Celux Designs. The turning point came when a luxury boutique in Lekki placed a wholesale order, 30 bags for their grand opening. Chioma hired 2 assistants, Miriam and Blessing, and turned her tiny apartment into a workshop. For 2 weeks, they worked until midnight, the whir of sewing machines filling the air. On delivery day, it poured rain. Chioma wrapped the bags in plastic, loaded them into a taxi, and delivered them herself. The boutique launch was a success. Photos of her bags appeared in magazines, tagged with #CeluxDesigns. One evening, Miriam showed her a tweet. From rejection to recognition, Celux is the brand to watch. Chioma felt her chest swell. For the first time since that awful interview, she was no longer defined by it. 6 months later, Celux was invited to showcase at a corporate charity gala hosted by Adewale Holdings. When Chioma arrived wearing a tailored emerald green jumpsuit, she spotted him, Colonel Adewale, across the room. He was surrounded by wealthy guests, laughing. At first he didn't recognize her. But when he did, his smirk froze. "Miss Adeyemi," he said as she approached. "It's been a while." "Indeed it has," she replied smoothly. "I hope business is treating you well." He glanced at her display. "Impressive work. I didn't expect," he trailed off. "That I'd still be standing," she finished for him. He forced a laugh. "Something like that." She smiled, but inside she remembered every word he'd said. The next week, Colonel called her. "I've been thinking," he said. "Adewale Holdings could help your brand grow. A partnership, distribution, marketing, think of the reach." Chioma listened politely before replying, "Thank you, but I already have my own table. I don't need a seat at yours." He chuckled, but there was tension in his voice. "You're confident. Confidence is earned, Mr. Adewale. And I've earned mine." When she hung up, Amaka burst out laughing. "You really said that to him?" "I did. And I meant it." With Mrs. Tiniola's help and steady sales, Chioma secured a major investor. On opening day of her flagship store in Victoria Island, journalists and influencers packed the room. The store gleamed, glass shelves, warm lighting, and a corner dedicated to bespoke tailoring. Chioma gave a short speech. "Celux is more than a brand, it's proof that rejection is just redirection." She hired 15 staff members, many of them women who had also faced rejection. As the night ended, she stood outside the store, watching the lights glow against the Lagos skyline. This was just the beginning. Success has a way of attracting attention, both good and bad. For Chioma, it was about to bring trouble. 2 months after the flagship store opened, Adewale Holdings announced a new handbag line. The designs looked eerily familiar, too familiar. Side-by-side photos on Instagram showed identical stitching patterns, color palettes, and even the signature clasp Celux was known for. Amaka stormed into Chioma's office. "They're copying you, Chi. They didn't even try to hide it." Chioma scrolled through the posts. The official Adewale Holdings page had Colonel himself posing with the bags. The caption read, "Small brands inspire us, but we perfect them." The comments section was a mix of outrage and support. "This is Celux's design," some wrote. Others defended Adewale Holdings. Miriam slammed her palm on the desk. "We can't let them get away with this." Chioma took a slow breath. "We won't. But we'll do it my way." She called her lawyer Mr. Okoro. "I want a file for copyright infringement. And I want it done publicly." By evening the legal notice was sent, and leaked to the press. The headlines were instant: David versus Goliath in Lagos fashion. Colonel called her that night. "You think you can fight me in court?" "No," Chioma replied. "I know I can." The first hearing drew a crowd. Cameras flashed as Chioma stepped out of her car in a navy pantsuit, her hair in a sleek bun. Inside, Colonel sat at the defendant's table, his expensive lawyer at his side. He looked relaxed, too relaxed. The judge entered and the proceedings began. Mr. Okoro presented photos of Celux's original designs, dated receipts, and testimonies from the boutique that first stocked her bags. Miriam and Blessing testified about the creation process, describing the unique clasp design and fabric sourcing. Cunnell's lawyer argued that fashion trends often overlap, and that no one owns patterns. Chioma kept her eyes forward, not giving Cunnell the satisfaction of her gaze. Outside the courthouse, reporters shoved microphones toward her. "Miss Adeyemi, are you confident you'll win?" She smiled faintly. "When you have the truth, confidence comes naturally." The verdict came 3 weeks later. The court ruled in favor of Celux Designs, ordering Adewale Holdings to withdraw their copied products and pay 50 million Nigerian nairas in damages. The courtroom erupted. Mariam hugged her. Amaka screamed, "Yes," so loud the bailiff had to shush her. Cunnell's jaw was tight as he signed the settlement papers. For the first time his mask of arrogance cracked. Outside, Chioma told the press, "This win is not just for me. It's for every small business that's been told they can't stand up to giants." Within a week, she reinvested the settlement into her expansion plan, opening pop-up stores in Abuja and Port Harcourt. Celux Designs caught the attention of a London-based fashion expo organizer. Chioma was invited to showcase her work alongside international brands. Stepping onto British soil for the first time, she felt both terrified and exhilarated. Her designs were displayed under spotlights, the rich colors of African prints drawing curious crowds. A British Vogue reporter interviewed her. "What drives your work?" "Every bag tells a story," Chioma said. "And mine is about resilience." By the end of the expo, she had orders from Paris boutiques and a Dubai luxury retailer. She was also invited to speak at women's leadership panels. In the quiet of her London hotel room, she thought about the girl who had walked out of that interview months ago. That girl would never have believed this moment. Back in Lagos, news trickled in. Adewale Holdings was struggling financially. Rumors swirled about poor management, delayed projects, and nervous shareholders. One evening over dinner, Mrs. Tiniola leaned in. "You know, their debts are piling up. If someone were to quietly buy them." Chioma's fork paused midair. "Through shell companies," she finished, her mind already turning. Within weeks, her financial advisor began purchasing the company's debts and shares through third parties. It was slow, deliberate, unnoticed by Cunnell. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same man who had thrown her out was now indirectly selling pieces of his empire to her. The takeover was complete in 6 months. An emergency board meeting was called to announce a new majority shareholder. Cunnell walked into the room looking irritated. "Let's get this over with. Who's the new owner?" The door opened. Chioma stepped in. The silence was electric. She walked to the head of the table, placed her handbag down, and sat. "Good morning, gentlemen. Shall we begin?" Cunnell's face drained of color. "You?" "Yes, me. And as of today, Adewale Holdings is under new leadership." The board members exchanged astonished looks. Chioma wasted no time. She ordered a full audit, removed incompetent executives, and promoted overlooked talent. She introduced a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs, sponsored by the company, and shifted focus toward sustainable fashion. Some resisted the changes, but her results spoke for themselves. Profits began to climb again. Employees whispered in corridors, "She's tough but fair." At a staff meeting, she addressed everyone. "This is no longer a place where arrogance tramples potential. Here merit wins." One afternoon, she called Cunnell into her office. He walked in stiffly. "What is this about?" She slid a white envelope across the desk. "Your termination letter." His jaw tightened. "You can't be serious. When you tore up my job offer, you thought you were ending my career. Today I'm ending yours." He stared at her, but she didn't flinch. Finally, he took the letter, turned, and left without a word. The moment the door closed, she allowed herself a small smile. The story broke within hours. The girl who bought the company that rejected her. CNN, BBC, and African business outlets requested interviews. On a talk show, the host asked, "What's the sweetest part of your victory?" Chioma replied, "That it's not about revenge, it's about building something bigger than their rejection." Social media lit up with her quotes, and young women across Africa began tagging Celux with messages of inspiration. With her new influence, Chioma launched the Celux Foundation, funding scholarships for underprivileged women pursuing business and design. She visited universities, speaking to students about resilience. At one seminar, a young woman asked, "What if you fail again and again?" Chioma smiled. "Then you try again. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it." The applause was deafening. It was a quiet Thursday morning when Chioma's assistant, Mariam, stepped into her office with a hesitant knock. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "He doesn't have an appointment, but I think you'll want to know who it is." Chioma looked up from the quarterly report she was reviewing. "Who?" Miriam shifted uneasily. "Colonel Adewale." Chioma's pen froze mid-sentence. For a moment, the name felt like an echo from another lifetime. "Send him in." Seconds later, Colonel appeared in the doorway. The once flawless suits and confident swagger were gone. He wore a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled up, the first two buttons open. His eyes were tired, his jawline rough with stubble. "Miss Adeyemi," he began. "Come in, Mr. Adewale," she said, her voice steady. He walked in slowly, glancing around her office. The panoramic view of Victoria Island, the tasteful art pieces, the framed photos of Sea Luxe stores across different cities. It was a kingdom he had once ruled, now firmly under her control. He sat when she gestured to the chair opposite her desk. "I won't take much of your time." "You already have," she said lightly, but her tone carried no venom. He gave a small, humorless smile. "I suppose I deserve that." Silence settled for a moment, broken only by the hum of the air conditioner. "I came," he said finally, "to apologize." Chioma leaned back in her chair, studying him. "For what, exactly?" "For the way I treated you that day in the boardroom. For tearing up your offer letter. For making assumptions about who you were, about what you could be." His voice was quieter now. I thought pedigree was everything. I thought your background meant you'd never survive in this world." Chioma folded her hands on the desk. "And now I know I was wrong. Very wrong." She searched his face, looking for arrogance, for insincerity, but what she found was something different. Regret. And perhaps exhaustion. "Why now?" she asked. "Why not months ago? Years ago?" He looked away for a moment, toward the skyline. "Because I wasn't ready to face it. At first I told myself you got lucky. Then I watched you win that case, expand your brand, take this company, and I realized none of it was luck. It was you. Your drive. Your vision." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "And it took losing everything for you to see it?" "Yes," he admitted. "And I'm not proud of that." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of years between them. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Connell continued. "I just needed to tell you that I respect you. More than anyone I've met in this business. You proved me wrong in every way that matters." Chioma tilted her head slightly. "And what do you hope will come from this conversation?" "Nothing," he said quickly. "I'm not here for favors. I'm not here to ask for a job. I just wanted you to hear it from me face to face." She considered his words carefully. Part of her wanted to dismiss him, remind him of the humiliation she'd endured. But another part of her knew that holding on to bitterness was its own kind of prison. "I appreciate your honesty," she said at last. "And I accept your apology." He blinked as if he hadn't expected her to say it so plainly. "Thank you. But," she added, "forgiveness doesn't erase the past. I don't forget easily. That day shaped me, but not in the way you intended. It lit a fire under me. It made me build something you couldn't touch." "I know," he said softly. "And that's why I respect you." She rose from her seat and extended her hand. After a brief pause, he stood and shook it. His grip was firm, but there was a humility in it now. As he turned to leave, he hesitated at the door. "Chioma, I hope one day the story people tell about me isn't just about the man who tore up your letter." She met his eyes. "That's up to you, Connell. Only you can write that ending." He nodded once, then walked out. Miriam slipped back in a minute later. "Everything okay?" "Yes," Chioma said, sitting down again. "Better than okay." That afternoon, as she prepared for a meeting with her foundation's board, Chioma found herself reflecting, not on the humiliation, not on the years of rivalry, but on the strange twist of fate that had brought them to that moment. Life had a way of circling back. She picked up her phone and called Amaka. "Guess who showed up in my office today?" Let me guess. The man who made you a household name without even meaning to." Chioma laughed. "Exactly. He apologized." Amaka's gasp was loud. "You're lying." "I'm not. And you know what? I think he meant it." "So, do you forgive him?" Chioma looked out the window at the city, the sun dipping low over the horizon. "I accept his apology. Forgiveness, that's more for me than for him. And I think I already gave that to myself a long time ago." Later that evening, she attended a charity dinner for the foundation. Standing at the podium, she addressed the crowd. "We all have moments where we're underestimated, dismissed, or told we don't belong. But sometimes, those moments are the very spark we need. Tonight I stand here not because of the doors that opened for me, but because of the ones that slammed shut." The room erupted in applause. Somewhere in the crowd she caught a glimpse of Connell, standing quietly at the back, his expression unreadable. She didn't approach him. She didn't need to. The chapter between them had already closed. And as she left the venue later that night, stepping into the cool Lagos air, she felt lighter. Not because Connell had apologized, but because she knew she no longer carried the weight of proving him wrong. She had already done that long ago. The grand ballroom of the Global Women's Leadership Conference shimmered under the glow of 1,000 lights. Delegates from over 40 countries filled the space: CEOs, diplomats, entrepreneurs, activists. The air buzzed with conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the occasional flash of cameras. Backstage, Chioma stood in a fitted white pantsuit that seemed to catch every glint of light. The Celux signature clasp gleamed at her waist, a subtle reminder of where it had all begun. Her assistant Miriam adjusted her lapel mic. "You're next." The keynote speaker slot, prime time. Chioma took a deep breath. "Let's make it count." The announcer's voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, founder and CEO of Celux Designs, majority shareholder of Adewale Holdings, and one of Forbes Africa's most powerful women, Chioma Adeyemi." The applause was thunderous as she walked to the podium. Cameras followed her every step. She began with a smile. "Good evening." If someone had told the 27-year-old me, the one standing outside Adewale Holdings after an interview gone horribly wrong, that one day I'd be standing on this stage, I would have laughed, or maybe cried. A ripple of laughter moved through the audience. I wasn't born into privilege. I didn't have connections. What I had was a degree, a dream, and a job offer that was torn in half in front of me, literally. She let that sink in before continuing. "That day could have broken me. And for a moment it did. But sometimes rejection isn't a closed door, it's a sign to build your own." The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. "I started with 50,000 naira, a sewing machine, and a kiosk in Yaba Market. I worked nights, learned from mistakes, and sold bags one customer at a time. I faced ridicule, competition, and even corporate theft of my designs. But here's the thing, every setback was a lesson. Every obstacle was a stepping stone." She glanced around the room, her gaze warm but steady. "We live in a world that sometimes measures worth by last names, pedigrees, and connections. I'm here to tell you, your worth is in your work, your persistence, and your vision." A wave of applause rose, but she raised a hand for quiet. "Today, Celux Designs operates in 6 countries. We've opened mentorship programs for young women. We've funded scholarships for over 100 students. And through Adewale Holdings, which I now lead, we've restructured policies to ensure no one is ever turned away because of where they come from." She paused, then added, "And yes, that includes the man who once told me I didn't belong here." Laughter and murmurs swept the audience, but she continued with calm authority. "People often ask me if revenge was my motivation. The truth? No. My motivation was never to prove him wrong, it was to prove myself right. And along the way, I realized the sweetest victory isn't taking someone's seat. It's building your own table, and inviting others to sit." The crowd erupted in applause, some rising to their feet. After her speech, the networking session began. Leaders from around the world approached her, shaking hands, exchanging cards, praising her story. An ambassador from Kenya said, "Your words will inspire thousands back home." A Saudi businesswoman added, "You've reminded us that power is built, not gifted." By the time she slipped away from the crowd to grab a glass of water, she felt both exhilarated and deeply grounded. Standing by the balcony, looking out at the glittering cityscape, she thought about the journey, the nights sewing until her fingers bled, the humiliation of that torn letter, the courtroom battles, the quiet boardroom takeover. And unexpectedly her mind went to Connell. Not in bitterness but in clarity. That chapter was over. His apology had been the final period at the end of that sentence. Later that night she returned to her hotel suite. On the desk was a stack of letters from scholarship recipients. One in particular caught her eye. "Dear Ms. Adeyemi, I'm writing to thank you for the Celux Foundation Scholarship. I've been accepted into the University of Lagos to study business administration. Like you, I come from a humble background, but I promise to work hard and make you proud." She smiled as she read the final line. "One day I will build my own table too." She set the letter down, feeling a swell of emotion. This was why she had fought so hard. Not to win against someone but to open doors for others. The next morning she appeared on an international morning show. The host leaned forward. Chioma, millions know your story now. If you could give one piece of advice to anyone facing rejection, what would it be? She didn't hesitate. Rejection is a mirror. It shows you who you are in that moment. But it doesn't decide who you will become. You decide that. Weeks later, she returned to Lagos to a hero's welcome. Billboards carried her face alongside the words, "From rejection to recognition, Celux leads the way." Her flagship store had customers lined out the door. The foundation's inbox overflowed with partnership requests. One evening as she left the office, Miriam walked beside her. "Boss, sometimes I still can't believe it. You went from being humiliated in that boardroom to owning it." Chioma laughed softly. "It still feels surreal. But you know what's the best part?" "What?" "That it's no longer about that day. It's about every day after it. That's what defines me." They stepped out into the warm Lagos night, the hum of the city wrapping around them. Somewhere in the distance, music played, car horns blared, life moved forward. And so did she. Months later, she received an invitation to return to her alma mater for an honorary degree ceremony. Standing at the podium in her graduation robes, she looked out at the sea of young faces. "When someone crushes your opportunity, don't waste your life seeking their approval," she told them. "Build your own path. And when you get there, don't forget to reach back and pull others forward." The hall roared with applause. As she left the stage, a thought crossed her mind. One simple sentence that summed up everything she had lived through. "I didn't just survive. I built." And with that, Chioma Adeyemi walked out into the next chapter of her life. One she had written entirely for herself. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.